Okay, so my craft was pottery, and I chose to do two different types of pottery, wheel work and slab work. And so I'm going to show you the steps of wheel work, and then I'll talk about the other stuff. So the first thing that you're going to do in order to spin clay on a wheel is you're going to get a piece of wire and cut off some clay. And then once you do that, you're going to have a big piece of clay, and you're going to put it on a wear board, and you're going to wedge it, which is sort of like kneading, where you pull it back and push it forward, pull it back, like that. You're going to do it over and over and over again until you form sort of like a ball or a pear shape, which I'm not going to completely do it because it'll take too much time. Once you get a good, where you got all the air bubbles out, you're going to go ahead and pat it. And you're going to keep patting it to get more of the air bubbles out and to form sort of a shape that you're going to place on the wheel. Okay, once you get a good, nice shape that's like a ball or more like a pear, you're going to throw it down onto this wheel. Okay, so here's where you're going to spin it. This is the bat of the wheel. And your clay's down in the center, and this has been formed a little bit already, but really, I'm just going to show you a little bit of this. We're going to get a nice wet sponge, and I'm going to start the wheel a little bit. And you're basically going to use the wheel and the sponge and pressure of your hand to push down in the center of this in order to make a plate or a bowl or whatever you're going to make. But basically, you're going to push down really hard, and depending on how hard you push, and try to keep it really centered, and what diameter you want, you're going to go ahead and keep spinning until you do that. In order to get a plate, you're going to push down in the center and pull from the center out in order to form a lip on the outside. And I'll show you what I came up with later. After you spin it, basically what you're going to do is going to get wire like you did before and cut it off the bat so that it doesn't stick to the bottom, and then take the whole thing and put it on a drying rack so that it dries. Once the clay dries, you're at a different stage. It's called greenware, and the greenware is where it's still smooth enough where you can put like a form into it if you want to put any kind of design into the clay or whatever. But basically, you want to trim it so that it's nice and flat on the bottom, so that you don't have a wobbly plate or a bowl. So you put it on a bat just like that spinning wheel before, and you use separate little tools. There's different tools that you can use in order to trim the bottom of the plate or the sides of the plate, depending on how you want it to look by it spinning, and you trim all the excess off, all this excess here, so that it's nice and flat and the bowl doesn't wobble. So after the greenware stage, you're actually going to put it into a kiln. It's going to have to bake for a little while, which obviously I can't show you the steps in between then and now, but you put it into the kiln, and it has to stay in the kiln at 1,032 degrees for about 36 hours, a total of 36 hours. 12 of those hours is where it's actually going to be baking, and the other hours it's cooling down. You can't open it until it's entirely cooled down. So once that happens, you're at a separate stage, which is called bisqueware. This is bisqueware. This is basically where it gets hard. And when you have the bisqueware, this is at the stage where you're going to want to color it if you choose to do that. And you color it with glaze. Here's different kinds of glazes, which are actually chemicals. You're going to use like a paintbrush, and you're going to basically place different coats of glaze over the top of your bowl. Probably a good 3 coats, where you're going to get a coat and then have it dry and then another coat. So you get 3 sturdy coats on there. Or you can use different tools or smaller paintbrushes if you want to paint a design on it. So after this state, you're actually going to go into the kiln again, which is another phase that I can't show you, but it goes into the kiln again for another 36 hours. This time it's at 2,032 degrees, and once again it bakes for about 12 hours or so, and then it cools down until you can open the kiln. And then once you open the kiln, at that point, you do have a final product. I'm going to show you the final products that I made on the wheel. Here are 2, smaller plate and a larger plate that I made on the kiln. These are the 2 that came out because I had to try over and over and over again, because as I was showing you, you have to get used to how much pressure you put to center, in the center of the bowl, and you have to practice pulling from the center outwards in order to get a nice looking plate. These are 2 of the better ones. The other ones I had to toss. But this is the bottom of the plate, and this is where I was showing you where the trimming comes in. I actually used a wire to cut it off the bat, and it came out a little lopsided, if you can see that at all. So it's kind of thinner on this portion, but this is as straight as it's getting, and then I glazed them and baked them, and this is how they came out. So these are the ones I did on the wheel. The other form of pottery I was talking about is called slab work. So come over here, I'm going to show you the slab wheel. I did the other one, the other pottery is slab wheel. You're going to put, what happens is you put the piece of clay here this time, and then you're going to use this roller, this slab wheel, and you're going to squeeze it through like you're making cookies, and then you're going to place them over these forms so that you could form some sort of platter, which is what I did. And this is the slab work that I did. I ended up putting a picture on it and painting it as well. So those others were wheel work, and this is called slab work. So I described for you my craft, and now I'm going to talk a little bit about what it meant to me and things like that. So I chose wheel work or pottery because my sister-in-law has her own studio, and she's a master potter, so I was able to get some really good tips and help from her. Obviously I needed it, and that's why I chose it, and I've never done it before. So my experience while learning and completing this craft, I found that it was much more difficult than I actually thought it would be, because I couldn't control the results, and I like to control the results, obviously. So it frustrated me a little bit, and every single movement that I made seemed to destroy what I had already done, and so that was a little bit difficult for me, and I realized that it would take a lot of extra practice and time doing it over and over and over again to become good at it. It was difficult for me, therefore. Some of the things that I found challenging were when you had to center the plate and you apply a lot of pressure to the clay as it was spinning on the wheel for the wheel work portion of it. It did hurt my wrists, the pressure, and so I couldn't endure as much time that I needed to do it. I had to stop in between. And I also found that my nails caused a problem, my fingernails, because as it was spinning, it would gouge into the clay, and it would totally ruin the surface, so I had to like resurface it again and again and again and again. The final projects mean to me, one, that my assignment is done, yay, and that I found, an interesting fact is that I found that I actually didn't like using the wheel or spinning pottery on a wheel. I actually enjoyed the slab work better, because I enjoyed the painting. So I think I like the way that I can control what my picture was going to look like, or the surface was going to look like, a little bit more control. So I found that to be interesting. It's a reflection, pottery is a reflection of my social and cultural background. Basically, I think the things that I found out about myself, the painting, really reflected I'm Italian, and I prefer millefiori or mosaic decoration, and so I think that it has a lot to do with my nationality or my culture. And the other thing is socially, pottery is really important to my sister-in-law, and so I felt like, working with her and learning from her was a great opportunity for me. So that was a good social reflection. I think that this craft would work best for clients who needed assistance with the psychosocial or cognitive area, because it would help them focus, and it might take their mind away from things that they were focused on. And I also think it would help in the biomechanical arena, even though I didn't like it because it caused pain to my wrists. I think that it would help if you continue to do it for range of motion or strength or endurance. The way that I would grade this craft up and down, I thought about this a bit, and I think grading it down would actually, I would have somebody do slab work rather than wheel work, because it's easier and more controllable than the wheel. And also a teacher would be able to assist and even place your hands or hold your hands with a certain amount of pressure or in the area that you need to do it in, or give you verbal cues on, place your hand here, put this here, use this tool, shape this here, spin it faster, whatever. They can give visual or verbal cues, is what I'm trying to say. And then I would grade it up by stopping the cues that I would give, or stopping the assistants by telling them where to place their hands, or placing my hand over their hand, and also progressing them from slab work up to the wheel. So that's my craft. Thank you for listening.